You are 22 years old. You have $0. You will earn approximately $3 million in your lifetime if you work full-time at a normal salary for 43 years. Most people will have almost nothing left at the end of those 43 years. A small percentage will have $10 million or more. The difference is not income. It is not luck. It is not inheritance. The difference is one mathematical force most people are told about and almost nobody actually applies. This video is what it looks like when you do. Level 1. The first dollar. You are 22, first job, salary $48,000. You have $0 invested. On a Tuesday evening, you open a brokerage account on your phone. 3 minutes, no appointment, no paperwork. You transfer $50. It feels foolish. That is the first signal that you are doing something correctly. If saving $50 felt important, the system would already be designed to make it impossible. The system was designed assuming you would not bother. The fact that $50 feels too small to matter is the entire reason it works. You set up an automatic transfer, $300 a month, before the rent, before the lifestyle, before anything else. The first month it transfers. The balance reads $300. You check it twice to make sure it did not disappear. It did not disappear. The financial insight. Compound interest does not begin when the money is large. It begins when the structure is real. The $300 is not the point. The automation is the point. Once the system is running, it does not require your motivation, your discipline, or your attention. It only requires your absence, your willingness to leave it alone long enough for the math to do its work. Level 2. The invisible years. You are 27, 5 years in. The brokerage account reads $24,000. You have not done anything dramatic. You raised your contribution from $300 to $500 when you got a promotion. You have not touched the account. You check it on the first of every month for less than 60 seconds. $24,000 is real money, but it does not feel like a fortune. Most people quit right here. This is the level where compound interest looks broken, where you have done everything right for 5 years and produced a number that does not feel proportional to the effort, where every dollar still feels like a sacrifice and the reward is invisible. Your friends are buying cars, taking trips, upgrading apartments, spending the difference between what their salary produces and what disciplined investing produces, and visibly enjoying the gap. You are not enjoying the gap. You are sitting on $24,000 in an index fund that returned $1,800 last year. Money you did not earn with hours. Money that just arrived because capital was deployed and time was passing. That $1,800 does not feel like much. It is the first signal of what is coming. You will not understand it for another decade. The financial insight. The first 10 years of compound interest are the hardest because the visible reward is dramatically lower than the invisible foundation being built. Most people who quit do not quit during a market crash. They quit during the boring middle years when nothing dramatic is happening and the discipline feels disproportional to the result. The boring years are not failure. They are the load-bearing structure for everything that comes later. Level 3. The first $100,000. You are 33. The brokerage account reads $100,000. It took 11 years. This is the milestone Charlie Munger said was the hardest. He was correct. Not because the math is difficult, because the behavior is difficult. 11 years of contributions. 11 years of not touching it. 11 years of watching the market drop 18% in 2026 and not selling. 11 years of watching it drop 31% in the recession that came after and not selling. 11 years of friends who started later and bought houses and sold them and traded crypto and chased returns while you did the boring thing. Automatic transfer, total market index fund, hands off the wheel. $100,000. Last year, your portfolio returned $7,200. You worked 0 additional hours for that $7,200. It arrived because capital compounds and you let it. For the first time, you understand what people mean when they say money makes money. It is not a metaphor. It is the literal, mechanical reality of what happens when you stop interrupting the process. The financial insight. $100,000 is the inflection point because it is the level where compound interest starts visibly outpacing your contributions. Below $100,000, your monthly transfer is the main engine. Above $100,000, the returns themselves become a meaningful contributor. The portfolio is no longer a savings account. It has become an asset that participates in your wealth building alongside your labor. From here forward, every additional year matters more than the previous one. Level 4. The shift. You are 40. The brokerage account reads $340,000. You have not changed your contribution dramatically. $700 a month for the past few years. Steady, boring, automatic. But something has changed at the structural level. Last year, the portfolio generated $24,000 in returns. That is more than half of what you earned in your first job at 22.
The capital is now producing income that rivals labor income at the early career stages. You did not feel this happen. There was no moment, no alert, no notification on your phone announcing the shift. It happened gradually across the entire 18-year span between level 1 and now. The slope of the curve quietly steepening every year while you were paying attention to other things: your career, your relationships, the news, the weather, the ordinary surface of an adult life. The portfolio is no longer waiting for your contribution to grow. The contribution still helps, but it is no longer the engine. The capital itself is the engine now. This is the moment compound interest stops feeling theoretical and becomes the most powerful financial force in your life. And almost nobody on earth is ready for how quietly it arrives. The financial insight. There is a moment in every long compound timeline when the returns from existing capital exceed the new contributions you are making. Most people never reach this moment. The ones who do almost never notice it happen. It is the most important transition in a financial life, and it has no announcement, no celebration, and no public marker. It just becomes true one Tuesday and continues being true every day after. Level 5. The million. You are 47. The brokerage account crosses $1 million. It happened on a Sunday morning. You did not throw a party. You made coffee. You read for an hour. You closed the laptop and went for a walk. You had been waiting for the million to feel like something dramatic, to feel like a verdict, a finish line, a moment of arrival you could clearly mark. It did not feel like that. It felt like a Sunday. What had actually changed was much smaller and much larger than $1 million. The portfolio at this level, at a conservative 4% withdrawal rate, could produce $40,000 a year indefinitely. That is not enough to retire. That is not enough to stop working, but it is enough to produce a different kind of decision-making. You negotiate differently now. You stay in jobs you like for different reasons. You leave the ones you dislike with a different timeline. You consider risks, starting a business, taking a sabbatical, supporting a family member through a different lens. The million did not buy you anything material. It bought you optionality. That is what nobody tells you about the first million. It is not a number that changes your life. It is a number that changes the architecture of your future decisions, quietly, permanently, without anyone noticing from the outside that anything has shifted. The financial insight. The first $1 million in invested assets is not a wealth marker. It is an optionality marker. At this level, the cost of certain decisions, leaving a bad job, declining a bad opportunity, supporting a family member through a hard year, drops dramatically because the financial cushion absorbs what would otherwise be a destabilizing shock. Optionality, not luxury, is the actual product of long-term compound interest. Level 6. The acceleration. You are 55. The portfolio reads $2.4 million. You contributed approximately $360,000 over 33 years. The returns have produced approximately $2 million. Your money has, at this point, earned more than 5 times what you ever put in. This is the level where compound interest stops being math and starts feeling like physics. The portfolio is generating $150,000 plus a year in returns at conservative rates. You spend $90,000 a year. The gap between what the portfolio earns and what you spend is being reinvested back into the portfolio every single year. The system is now running on positive feedback. Earnings produce more capital. More capital produces more earnings.
More earnings produce more capital. This is not theoretical anymore. This is what people mean when they say wealth begets wealth. You are not richer because you are doing more. You are richer because the system you built decades ago is doing more, on its own, faster than you can spend it. The contribution stopped being the main driver years ago.
Then the return stopped being the main driver. Now the returns on the returns are the main driver. That is the level most people never reach because it requires the previous 5 levels to already be running. You cannot start at level 6. You can only arrive there. The financial insight. The final third of any compound interest timeline produces more wealth than the first 2/3 combined. The first 30 years build the foundation. The last 10 to 15 years is where the actual fortune is created. Almost everyone who attempts to start the journey late never sees this phase. Almost everyone who started early but quit during the boring middle never sees this phase either. Only the people who built the structure early and let it run see what compound interest is actually capable of. Level 7, the final form. You are 65. The portfolio reads $5.4 million. You did not get there by earning more. You earned a normal salary for 43 years. You received some raises. You had some good years and some bad years. You got there because you started at 22. You let the structure run for 43 years. You did not interrupt it during 2026. You did not interrupt it during the recession that followed. You did not interrupt it during any of the 8 major market drops that occurred across your investing life. You did the boring thing for 43 years. The result is $5.4 million. If you had earned a slightly higher salary, contributed a slightly larger amount, or extended the timeline by 5 more years, you would have crossed $10 million. The math is not extraordinary. The discipline is. That is the entire secret. The math is available to everyone. The 43 years of not interrupting it is what separates the few who reach this level from the many who knew the math and never executed it long enough to see it work. The cost of waiting. Now do the same math for the person who started at 35 instead of 22. Same income, same monthly contribution, same investment vehicle, same returns. Started 13 years later. At 65, their portfolio reads $1.4 million. The 13 years cost them $4 million, not $13,000 multiplied by 13 years of contributions. $4 million in final value. Because the missing 13 years were not just years of contributions, they were the 13 years where the early capital had the longest runway to compound, and that runway is the most valuable runway in the entire timeline. The dollars you invest at 22 work for 43 years. The dollars you invest at 35 work for 30 years. The 13-year difference does not feel like 13 years when you are choosing between investing now and investing later. It feels like a small delay. A reasonable postponement, something you will fix soon. The math does not feel that way. The math feels exactly like a $4 million difference at the end of a working life, because that is what it produces. That is the cost of waiting. It is not paid in the year you delayed. It is paid at the end, all at once, by a 65-year-old who thought the delay would not matter and discovered that the delay was the entire game. If you are 22 and you have not started, you have the most valuable financial asset in this entire video. You have the time the 35-year-old in the comparison cannot get back. If you are 35 and you have not started, you do not have what the 22-year-old has. But you have what the 50-year-old does not have, and the 50-year-old still has what the 65-year-old does not have. The asset is time. The asset is always time. The only question is how long you are going to wait before you stop watching the asset disappear and start putting it to work. The structure starts the moment you press confirm.